Hey, Josh and John, thanks so much for having me on. I'm Katie Thomas, a CPA, and I run a digital marketing agency that has worked with hundreds of accountants, CPAs, bookkeepers, and finance professionals. And there's a common problem that all of us face, and that's that marketing can be confusing. There are so many strategies available. So, how do you find one that is going to work for you? Well, luckily today, I'm going to teach you guys a process that will work for every single one of you if you do it consistently and properly.
Awesome. And I like the way she starts it off by us. It's us. Like you're a CPA yourself, right?
Yeah, I am.
So you're bringing that to the table. This isn't some consultant giving consultant speak about what might happen or could happen or should happen. This is from the trenches. You've been there, seen it, done it, Katie, yeah?
Yeah, and I think most of us can say we love a process. We like to see things balanced. We like to follow a set of rules. And so that's what I really wanted to find as part of my journey, even marketing for my own marketing firm. And so after trying this with myself and hundreds of other accounting firms, I can tell you this does work and it is very much a process.
Ooh, processes. I love processes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So where do we start there, Katie?
So it's the 4C process, and we can dive into each of them today, but it's going to be choose, connect, converse, create. And so what you're first going to do is you have to choose your platform, but how do you choose it? So you don't need to overthink this, but first ask yourself, where does your ideal client hang out? So ideal client, where are they? Are they going to be on LinkedIn? Are they going to be on Instagram, Facebook? Maybe there are a lot of places, but I want you to think about one place. And then you need to ask yourself the next question. So, what are my strengths?
Can I just take you back there in the space between speaking there, Katie? When you say ideal client, in your experience, and this is probably a subject for another session, but in your experience, how well do most accountants, or how well have they defined who their ideal client is? Do you think they know who they're actually looking for, or most of them really ambiguous about who could be a great client?
That's a great question. And I think it depends on when they started their firm. Nowadays, I think that the niche is introduced to a lot of people as they're just starting their firm. But if they've had it for a while, it's, they've served a lot of people. And since it's traditionally been very referral networking, having an ideal client wasn't as important because it was more about who knew who and just doing it that way.
Awesome. Okay,
How do we find out where? I mean, you say choose our platform and it's where our ideal client hangs out, but how do we find out where they actually hang out? Is there a service for this too?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And a lot of it is going to be doing market research and figuring out, one, you have to define that person if you haven't, as you all brought up. If you don't know who it is, figure out first who it is, whether it's an industry that you really like. It's also maybe where the person's located, it's how old they are. It can be a lot of things. And that would be a lesson in itself. But then you've just got to go on the platform and figure it out. So if you work with, say, a lot of business owners that are they are in the B2B space, LinkedIn is going to have a lot of those people. But maybe you like working with in the beauty industry and you like hairstylists and you or photographers, more like creatives. That's probably going to be Instagram and Facebook. And they might be on multiple platforms. So this is why it's important to consider that second aspect once you've defined who they are and either the platform or platforms that they're likely hanging out on. You want to consider your strengths. So if you're on social media, which it's the last piece, is you're gonna have to create content. And if you're telling me, hey, my people, they are on, let's say, Instagram and they are on Facebook, but I really don't like taking photos, then maybe Instagram does not play to your strengths because it's got a lot of photos. Maybe you like writing, or maybe you like posting videos. Those are both work on Facebook, but Instagram is going to have a hard time creating that nice feed. So starting out on a Facebook might be better.
Awesome.
Yep.
Good.
So then finally on that platform, we just need to optimize it once you've chosen your platform. So I'm just going to put optimize your profile. And this could be very in-depth. So just to quickly think about it, your banner, if there's a banner, your profile picture, and your tagline, who you help and how you help them. if you can nail all three of those, you're going to be off to the races with having a nice, inviting profile for your ideal client.
Brilliant. And as you said, we can come back and look more at this in future lessons. You can go a little bit deeper, maybe with individual aspects. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing.
Okay. So we've chosen our platform. Now we need to connect with our people. So how can we find them? We've done some research. We know that they're on there, but now it's like, okay, how am I going to actually find them? And there's a variety of ways that you can do it. So depending on the platform, one way you might be able to do it is by their title. So for example, on LinkedIn, you can go and search by title, by industry, by company size. So title, we'll just call these, they're very, very like specific things that you can go search for. But not all platforms will let you do that. And maybe your people aren't on LinkedIn. So what's another way you can do this? Well, you can look at influencers. You don't need to build your own audience. Think about who already has it. So maybe you work with a lot of marketing agencies. Well, a lot of marketing agencies follow Russell Brunson, and he's the owner of ClickFunnels. So maybe you go to Russell Brunson's profile and you see all the people liking his content, and you start filtering through those people. So another one is influencers. Don't need to reinvent the wheel if we don't have to. He's already built the audience. So that's another way. Another great way is groups. So Facebook has tons and tons of groups, and let's say that we serve bike shops. That's our niche. There are groups just for bike shop owners and people that like bike shops. So groups, and that's kind of like influencers. You know, there's already a group of people there. And then the final way that we could talk about finding people online is hashtags. So Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, other platforms, they have hashtags, and you can find industry or niche related hashtags and go sort through people that are using those. And that'll get you also help you find the right ideal clients and connect with them. So we also have hashtags.
So suppose that I already have a bunch of clients. How do I go about inviting them onto my social media profile?
So that's where we're going to get into the converse, because you're saying that you've already like connected with a bunch of them, or you already know where they're at.
Clients. Yep.
Yeah. So then we got to actually start talking to them. And whenever we're thinking about talking to people, you know, we have our platform, we've connected with them, or we know where they're at. Now we actually have to start talking to them, because talking to them is the basis of everything. It's starting that relationship. And when you first talk to somebody, you may or you may not know that they're looking for your services. You just need to find out if you can help them. So one of the things I like to say is we can just stumble upon this ideal person and send them a direct message. So I'm going to put direct message. I'll put DM for short, DM. And this can be intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. So for example, let's say I stumble upon somebody's profile on Instagram and I see that they have 2 kids. I could send them a message like, hey, name, I see that you have 2 kids. They're adorable. How old are they? And so it's not even related to your services. It's just to start having a conversation. And at some point you can turn it and maybe ask about their business, what's going well, and start to develop yourself, that relationship with them. And they're going to come to your profile. If it's set up right, they know what you do. So they'll start to see what you do. You start having those conversations. Another thing is in groups, you're going to see people post in these groups like, hey, does anyone know, for example, of a good accountant? I need help with XYZ. So I'm going to put groups here. And groups, what you'll notice is other accountants, if they're in it, they're going to comment, me, pick me. You've got to take a different approach. And you've got to say, make it about them. Say like, hey, so-and-so, I looked at your website. I'm really interested in what you do. I would love to connect with you and share some thoughts around how I can help you. I've helped other business owners, and see if we're a good fit to help. Do you mind if I DM you? Or maybe ask if you can DM them about what they're actually looking for in an accountant. Like, make the conversation more focused on them and their needs rather than pick me, I'm perfect. And you're going to see that this opens up the door for a lot of relationship building, which ultimately that's what conversing with people is about. So always make the conversations about them.
And can I add, I mean, Two things here, Josh. Number one, I know you're dying to get in, but I just want to do this a little bit. Katie, that was adorable. You know that me, choose me, choose me. We should turn that into a GIF or something and spread it all over the internet. You doing that? That was absolutely crazy. So I love that. But it's so true. That's exactly what you see in these groups. People just go nuts, don't they? And it's like 20, 30 people acting like 7-year-old kids at a party going, me, choose me, choose me, choose me. It's crazy. So 100% with you there. Sorry, Josh. I just had to get that one.
No. I was just going to ask. We all know that social media can be a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But we also know the CPAs love their systems and processes. What time frame or time limit do you recommend that they actually do this? Do you recommend they do it in the morning, lunchtime, afternoon, 30 minutes per day? What's your take on that after working with everybody?
It's going to depend on what they want the result to be, how much time they should allocate it. Definitely have those limits, as you said. But if someone if they've got an hour a day and they're wanting, to have, 1 to 2 good sales calls a week or whatever they want to call them, discovery calls, then an hour a day, if you split it up 30 minutes in the morning, maybe you're, looking in the groups for some specific keywords, and then 30 minutes at night to respond to messages. That's going to get you really, really far. As you said, it's a rabbit hole. So you've got to put constraints, but you've also got to be realistic. So if you're maybe wanting like 1 client a month, maybe it's 15 minutes each, morning and night. It's really going to just be up to like how many calls you want to book.
And then the quality of your messaging and the quality of
exactly.
Everything else comes into it. How long does it take people to become proficient, do you think? Like if somebody's starting today, they've never done this before, they're listening to what you said and say, okay, I'm going to dip my feet in, I'm going to have a go at this. There's a learning curve, isn't there? There's like starting today, you don't know what to say. You're feeling a bit like, I don't know how to say it and how to approach people. What does it take for somebody to sort of get to the point where they're feeling that little bit more comfortable?
If you do it for a month, you're going to feel really good. After 2 weeks, if you're doing this every single day, you're going to feel a lot better. That first week, it's going to feel funny, and you're going to have to, try out some different messaging and just get used to it. But after a month, if you've done this for an hour a day, you're going to feel really good about doing it.
Particularly if you get some results, like a client knocking on your door saying, please, me, choose me, I'm the client.
Exactly. And, I say this with caution, it's a numbers game, because you do have to touch so many people to just statistically have someone, 1, that's a good fit, and 2, that needs your services. But why I say that with caution is, as you mentioned, it's the quality of messaging. So if you just throw out a bunch of junk and be the me, you're probably not going to see very good results, rather than taking more time, even sending less messages, have them really high quality, because what you'll find is no one really responds meanly, and maybe they don't need you, but now you've started that relationship and they might know somebody who does need you.
Cool. Awesome.
I think we're ready to go into create, because you just opened up a can right there on our messaging.
Yeah. So create is last. And the reason why create is last is if you just start creating content, even if it's great, nobody's going to see that. It's like walking into a cocktail party, standing in the corner, not talking to anyone, but you're wearing this awesome dress or suit that you want someone to notice. And it's like, no one's even looking at you. No one's talking to you. So no one's going to see it. So that's why create's last. You need to be doing all of these things first and continuing to connect and converse before you worry about create. And create, you need to think more about the feelings that you want to evoke in someone, rather than stressing about how perfect it looks or the content. Like, yes, the content's important in what you write, but if you can convey a feeling that you want them to have, whether you want them to be feel like they're more confident, they're more educated in their decisions, so you educate them, whether you want them to be inspired or entertained. So most CPAs and accountants, I would say they aren't as big on entertaining, because this is like a professional service, but education and inspiration are really big. So remember, on create, it's the feelings. And stories are really good. If you can share stories, that's an amazing way to convey feelings, because think about movies, they tell a story and they give us feelings. As well here, as you can think about really easy content to create is going to be, what are the questions that you're asked? What are the top 3 ways to get the benefit of what problem you solve? What are 5 misconceptions? So kind of like answering Q&As. So we'll just call this one is Q&A, like top 5 maybe.
So you're saying that they should create a Q&A post around something which may get asked.
So yeah, so like a common question I'm asked is X. Maybe let's just throw out an example there. Like, what's the best way to track your miles as an entrepreneur? Really, there's two ways, and I'm going to tell you what one is the best. And they can go into what one's the best, and maybe their conclusion is that there isn't a best. It can be whatever you want, but just think about the questions that you're asked. And then the other thing here is you need a call to action. So I'm going to abbreviate it as CTA. And when I talk about calls to action, you've got to be careful. It's not saying call to action means sign up for a call. Let's have that sales conversation. A call to action is just inviting them to that next step in talking to you, building the relationship. So it could even be asking for someone to share an experience, comment their thoughts on X, Y, and Z. It does not have to be a hard call to action. And this is where a lot of people get it wrong, because just posting content on the internet with calls to actions to book a call, it goes back to the me. It doesn't help that relationship be built. And that's ultimately what this needs to do. It demonstrates that you're an expert. It builds the know, like, and trust, and it facilitates that relationship moving down the ladder of where it needs to be for them to ultimately say, like, hey, I'm ready to work with you.
I really like how you flipped create and converse, because usually they say, hey, what do I write to open up these conversations? What do I need to say? What should I ask? But you flipped it on its head by doing it backwards there, well, which is the right way. But they have the conversations, which leads to the ideas for the creation of the content. So
exactly.
I like theirs.
And how many people, Josh, do we see who sit there and they've written 5 and 10 posts or content pieces or whatever? They've never actually got to market because they're getting ready to get started. They're like, once I've got a whole bunch ready, then I'll do it. And that fear of actually getting that stuff to market when they should have been having the conversations and then looking at content later. So that's brilliant. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Which the answers comes from the market. So
exactly. And you'll find a lot of, like, as you're looking in like these groups and looking at other people's content, you're going to find like questions that people are asking within here too. That's great market research. See what people are wanting and asking, as well as when you're talking to them, because this is going to be a really long play if you're not doing this, and you may be totally missing the mark with your content.
Love it. So what was that last thing? CTA. Give us a CTA for you there, KT. We're at that time in the session where we could do with a CTA off you. So we appreciate the fact that you're going to be coming back. So we're going to see you again. You've given us some great informative information today and hopefully inspired a few people as well. How do they take a step forward towards you now? Supposing somebody wants to circumvent seeing you again in a month time or 2 months or whatever to see what you next thing that you've got to share with them. What would they do to reach out to you? How can they get hold?
So the best way is to go to www.leaders-online.com, and you can click schedule to schedule an appointment with me. But if you would just like some more information on this 4C process, some examples of specific messaging templates that you can use, ways that you should optimize your profile, really dive a little bit deeper into each of these, then you can go to www.leaders-online/4C process. So it's right there, 4C process.
That's cool. We'll put a link in down below so people will be able to get that. I'm sure you're going to get inundated with people wanting to walk through this the way you've done it there, because it's been very informative. So